Good afternoon, everybody. It is so great to see all the people that are joining us in the room. The numbers just keep going up and up and up. I love this. Um, Welcome again to our weekly webinar. We're doing 5 webinars this week to help local businesses get in the new world, figure out how to adjust, how to pivot, how to do anything you possibly can to find a way to be successful, even in this era, right? And about how to communicate that. So today, obviously, is kind of the same thing. We have the fabulous Christie Osborne, who is the owner of Mountainside Media, with us. She has made a name for herself as a nerdy, data-driven marketer. By the way, those were her words, not mine. However, what many don't know about her is that she also holds a FEMA certification in social media emergency management, which is kind of impressive. In other words, she is formally trained for handling major crises online. She got a real world experience in the travel industry, managing social media channels for Visit Mammoth during the years of severe drought and subsequent raging wildfires that plagued California for years. She joins us today to talk about tactics weddings and event pros can use on social media to help set themselves up for recovery while still in the midst of a crisis. So before we get with this, I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that this is just one of 5, that we're going to have another one tomorrow at 3:30. So I hope you join us. Also, there's several different programs which Christie is going to talk about, another webinar that she's going to be involved with that you might also be interested in. But for the moment, Christie, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks for having me, Keith, and thanks for everybody for joining us today. I am going to talk about crisis communication, but before I do, I want to just dive into some current events. Basically, crisis communication specialists are routinely called upon to respond to the exact situation that is right in front of them. And it doesn't matter how messy or scary it is, the goal is to respond, but the goal is also to keep communities safe, first and foremost. So before I begin just going off on crisis communication and recovery, I want to acknowledge that for many of you, myself included, we feel like we're going through another crisis, a national crisis, right on the heels of the COVID crisis, which has not resolved yet. And it feels like another crisis to handle with your business, another crisis to handle on social media. And I do not disagree. I don't disagree that we're in a crisis. And I want to say that I wish I could be a better resource for you today. But the fact is that my training, my FEMA certification, is specifically for dealing with natural disasters, including pandemics. My training does not cover crisis PR if your business is currently being criticized or attacked for a misstep that you made online. And my training does not cover any kind of inclusion or equity or diversity training. So it's become clear to me that a lot of us are going to need that moving forward to deal with this particular crisis of social justice in our nation. And if you're wondering what to say online this week, I recommend that you seek out an inclusivity and social justice expert. And there are currently business coaches and consultants that are offering information and resources. They are taking on new clients. And I've actually taken this step as well for my business. I'm reaching out to a couple of people and looking to hire a diversity consultant who can help me be more equitable and fight for social justice. All of that is to say is I might be in the same space as you.
And I think I forgot to also mention that what she's going to be speaking about today is fairly dense. There's a lot to cover. And so we're going to wait until the end for any questions. But if you have a question, put it in the chat folder so that way we can see them and combine them. So that way we really make the most out of Christie's time. And I also forgot to state that this is a NACE, National Association of Catering Events webinar that's being sponsored by the Greater Broward and Palm Beaches, but also affiliated with the Richmond, Appalachian, Charlotte, Triangle, Greater Atlanta, Nashville, Northeast Florida, Orlando, Greater Broward, I said, and Greater Miami chapters of NACE. So thank you to our Southeast chapters of NACE. We're so excited. Thank you, Christie, and it's
Thank
back
you,
to you.
Keith. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap this up, but I'm going to say this. I have two more things to say about this, actually. One is very early in the COVID-19 crisis, I got a lot of questions when I did early trainings about how you should adjust your contracts and what you should say to clients and stuff like that. And it was super unsatisfying, I know, but oftentimes I would say, you got to talk to your lawyer. You got to talk to your lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. If you have questions about how to respond to what's going on right now with Silent Tuesday or George Floyd or social justice in your area, you are going to hear me say, hire an inclusivity and diversity coach, or hire, a social justice consultant. I just don't have the training to help you. But what I can say is just a good start is to just go out and find some resources on your own in the meantime. And I'd just like to give a shout out to a fellow wedding planner, Terica, who also hosts webinars, and she's hosting a webinar tomorrow called Healing Wounds and Bridging Gaps. It's just for wedding and event industry folks, and it's a conversation with a diverse group of people, including people of color, Black people, gay people, white people. And so I encourage you to check it out. It's tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern time if you're really curious about what to do next or how to get involved. I would start with that. So with all that said, let's talk about missteps in natural disasters. So in 2015, smoke rolled into my mountain community here in California, and it was thick, choking smoke. If you were outside, you were going inside because you couldn't breathe. Ash was falling from the ground, and the smoke rolled in, and I was really nervous because my job was to promote a town to tourists in Southern California. I live right near Yosemite National Park. And luckily, the smoke rolled out and it was as clear as a bell. And then the smoke rolled in and the smoke rolled out. And it kept on cycling like this. Every hour, 90 minutes, smoke would roll in, hang out, and then it would roll out. Well, in the meantime, every single local with a phone was outside just like taking pictures of the smoke and video of the smoke and getting on Facebook, and mostly Facebook because it was 2015, talking about how horrible the smoke was in Mammoth Lakes. And then, for me, I'm like, what are these people like? Why is the taco place talking about, like, if you have to end your patio seating because you're a restaurant because of the smoke, that's one thing. But just going out there with your phone and posting onto your business page about how horrible the smoke is and how unhealthy it is, I panicked. It was my job. I was the director of digital for the DMO, the Tourism Bureau, to make sure that our economy didn't tank. So I was concerned that tourists might reconsider their trip to the mountains during a situation that might just pass as quickly as it came in, right? Smoke's rolling in, smoke's rolling out. So I decided to email my community because I had all the business addresses and just ask them to wait to see what happened before we panicked, and we put it all over social media that it was dangerous to go to Mammoth Lakes. Do you know what happens? I got in the paper, and basically the paper said something along the lines of, evil marketer doesn't care about anybody's health or well-being. They just want money. And I was crushed. Like, I'm being ridiculed by my community on Facebook. I'm in the newspaper as the evil marketer, and all I was trying to do is help. And I'm sure, going back to George Floyd, I'm sure that there's some of you that have made a misstep where you're just like, I had good intentions. I just didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so my very, very first mistake in this, as I would come to know when my boss said to me after this fire, hey, FEMA's in town, why don't you go get certified so you don't make this mistake again, you big dum-dum. And I was like, yes, that sounds great. That's how I got certified. My first mistake was not researching authority sources like CAL FIRE first, right? So all crisis communications specialists know that you need to go to authority sources first and amplify those messages from authority sources, not guess, not look anything up and just see and just look at the wind blowing in and out. I would have discovered that fire was growing rapidly, and if I had looked at some of the weather reports, that we were in for a long and smoky summer with that particular fire, and it did destroy tourism for the summer, and rightly so. My second mistake was not considering my audience sentiment. See, I was working for the Visitor Bureau, and the year before, because life is crazy, my town declared bankruptcy, and the bankruptcy bill was $2 million a year. There were two organizations that had a $2 million budget, exactly: marketing, the Visitor Bureau, and the police department. And unfortunately for the police department, the people who work at the marketing department are marketers. So the police department got cut, and we not only kept our money, but we were able to pass a local bill that ballooned our budget to $7 million a year. Now, if you want to really upset people and raise the ire of a local small town community, tax them to the tune of $5 million extra dollars a year, and they hate you. And so instead of understanding that my audience might not want me to email them and say, you should do this and you should do that, and that I should take a different approach to it, helped me or helped facilitate the misstep that I made. And quite frankly, I probably deserved to be in the paper that day. So what I want to talk to you about is I want to talk to you about how not to make some of the same mistakes for whatever you're dealing with COVID-19 or any kind of natural disaster you might deal with. I know that you deal with hurricanes on the East Coast and in Florida. We deal with earthquakes here. Everybody's dealing with wildfires right now, including Florida. So whether or not it's COVID or it's some other natural disaster that comes along, I want to talk a little bit about how to deal with it, and most importantly, how we're going to recover right now from the crisis that we're finding ourselves in. So step one, I mentioned this, keep listening. The best thing you can do is to continue to listen to your audience, listen to local authorities, and just really keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. So the first place I like to start are with people who are closest to me, and that includes my clients and my potential clients. And the best place to find them is actually in your inbox. So what I'd like for you to do right now, especially as we're trying to figure out how to recover from COVID and we have no idea when, we still don't know when the event industry is going to open up, or how. Is it going to be 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, as many as we want? So being able to do a monthly audit of your inbox and note the biggest frequently asked questions that you're getting is going to be really helpful, especially in such a slow moving crisis as COVID, right? Because your frequently asked questions this month are likely fundamentally different from your frequently asked questions in March when this all started. And if you're feeling especially ambitious, or a lot of things are moving around and you're getting a lot of governor updates or local mayor updates, you might want to do this audit weekly. Now, the cool thing that you can do about this is you can analyze your inbox and start to compile your own frequently asked questions document and use that to start producing content to keep your audience apprised of what's going on. This helps you stay top of mind in really relevant and helpful ways. Or you can do an Instagram live, or you can do a blog post, or you can create a resources page. It doesn't matter. As soon as you start auditing things like your inbox, a lot of answers will come to you about what to say online. Second place to go is groups, especially Facebook. So I hear a lot of clients and a lot of objections from people in my sphere of influence that say couples aren't on Facebook anymore. They're likely not using the news feed or posting to Facebook as a social media channel, but they are still all over the groups. And so and there are group admins that will allow vendors in if they're not hard selling and stuff like that. You're being useful, but you can do keyword searches in these groups. So wherever you are, you know, if you're a Tampa Bay vendor, you can search Tampa Bay photographer, if that's what you are, in some of these groups and see if there are any questions coming up. Now, a lot of these groups, you're not going to get a lot of super local information, but understanding how national conversations are evolving around like how they're rebooking their venue or rebooking their photographer, or how they're dealing with COVID, can also help you put your inbox audit into that larger national context. So again, mining those groups for information, documenting it in a spreadsheet, and using it to inform future content can really go a long way to help you stay top of mind regularly and in a way that's very relevant and sticky to people. Stalk clients on social. If you're not already stalking clients on social, you're missing out on a whole bunch of magic. So when you book a client, especially one of those perfect ideal clients, oftentimes their social media feeds, especially on Instagram, will be public. And the really interesting thing about this is if you're a florist, your client's probably just talking to you about flowers and maybe decor and design. But if you stalk them on social, you can see like the whole wedding planning process. You can see how they're feeling emotionally, how they're dealing with it, whether or not they're dealing with family issues, whether or not they're struggling to rebook. And what you can do, again, is ingest all of this content and either use it to serve your individual clients or use it to create additional resources that you can share on social media or in a blog post or in an email, right? So do you see a trend here? Listen to your audience and use those insights to easily create content that shows you as an expert, positions you as an authority, helps you stay top of mind, and helps you remain relevant throughout this slow moving crisis. So you've listened to your audience, you have an idea of like what you need to say. You also want to stay current with relevant information. So it's the COVID crisis in particular is such a different crisis because at the same time it's long lived and seems slow moving, information changes weekly, especially as states are really striving to open again. So it's like we strive to open and then we surge and then we kind of pull back and then some beaches open and then they close. And so although it's a slow moving crisis, information is moving around fast. And so I make a habit to stay current without being overwhelmed of checking with my local, state, and federal updates a few times a week or as needed. You do not need to make being on YouTube and watching live political videos your full-time job in order to stay current. You just need to stay current on your local conditions. And right now, checking in a couple of times a week, depending on how frequently your mayor or your governor is doing live updates, will be sufficient for staying current and being available to your clients and potential clients with handy, timely information. Also, I love vendor groups and associations for quickly and easily staying up to date and accessing new information, not just these webinars, but the Facebook groups that you're involved in, the NACE Facebook group. If you have a WIPA chapter and ILEA chapter, those tend to be good as well. But obviously I love NACE. I'm on the marketing committee. I'm a member of NACE, so I'm gonna always push NACE, but other associations can be good for sharing information as well. Just make sure that any information that you get from colleagues either goes through your lawyer if people are giving you advice on contracts, or it's verified by authority agencies such as your local health department, your local government, the CDC, or national government. Groups and associations are also a great place to share information about how people are dealing with different situations in the trenches, right? So how do you deal with the highly emotional, couples are emotional anyway. Now you throw in a COVID crisis and it's amplified to the nth degree. So networking with colleagues can also help you formulate your content. So As you're keeping your eyes and ears open and ingesting all of this content, keeping track of all of this content, you want to look for trends, okay? You want to see where the frequently asked questions are and the hot spots and how the conversations are moving along. However, crisis communication specialists always, always, always take the time to verify facts and craft statements. Okay. And this is very unsatisfying to a lot of consumers of information and social media audiences. Government gets accused of moving very slowly a lot. Having served on EOCs during emergencies and been a part of that government machinery, I will tell you that oftentimes we're just trying to verify facts to keep people safe. So you want to also take the time to verify any facts that are coming from you. How you verify them? You just go to some standard authority websites, and that's the CDC, the FDA, if you're into food service, has a lot of good information. FEMA is not involved in a pandemic, but if you're dealing with a natural disaster, that is all FEMA. And then also your local health department. If your chief medical officer from a local hospital is talking, those are authority resources, right? Authority resources aren't always the newspaper that you like to read or the AP or the Economist or whatever. Authority resources are the CDC for the pandemic. The second thing that all crisis management specialists know is there's a difference between responding and reacting. And so oftentimes, and this happens especially with social media, if you start to get trolls, which happens in any crisis, I don't care if you're talking about a social justice crisis, a wildfire crisis, or a pandemic, people have opinions. They will sometimes attack you. They'll scream at you that you're wrong, that you're an evil marketer, that you are compromising people's safety. And my biggest advice to you is don't react. Don't give them a timeline. Don't get defensive. Don't respond. Go and do your research. Verify your facts, even if you verified them before. Take a 30-foot view. Sleep on it. You don't have to respond to everything on social media as it happens. Oftentimes, if something intense is going on, I'll give myself a 6, a 12, or even a 24-hour window to really think about it, do my research, and craft a response. So understand the difference between responding and reacting. Okay, so that's knowing your audience. Next, to set yourself up for recovery and handle a crisis as it's going on, you're going to want to revisit your brand. So think back to that restaurant that I talked about where they were talking about all the smoke, and I was like, well, if you need to pull people off patio seating, that's one thing, but just going out, if you're a Mexican restaurant and talking about the smoke, you're not the news anchor, you're not the weatherman. Like, what are you doing? How is that actually serving your business and your audience? And it's the same with us as we deal with this COVID crisis, or if you had a hurricane or a wildfire or an earthquake or a flood on your hands, right? So what you want to think about is you want to think about posting relevant updates. Well, you also want to think about how it connects to your brand, okay? And this will not only help keep you top of mind, but it will help you set yourself apart because you're talking about relevant information within that context and framework of your brand. So let's talk a little bit about that. First thing you want to do is consider your brand experience. Go back to your brand adjectives if you had them, if you've developed them. If not, I mean, goodness, just think of 5 adjectives that you would like to have associated with your brand or you think describe your brand really well, right? It's super easy to get out of touch with your brand experience and your brand adjectives during a crisis, right? But if your brand adjectives include elegant, professional, trusted, sophisticated, and reliable, then use them to determine how you're going to communicate what you're going to communicate, right? So for example, if your brand is trusted, if you're the planner that is trusted in your vendor, community and among your clients and in your reviews, it's more important than ever that you share highly vetted information from authority sources because that hooks into your brand adjectives. If you're elegant and sophisticated, you're going to shy away from crazy strong reactions and crazy emotional rides, right? So really touch back to your brand, go back to your brand adjectives. If your brand is fun, creative, approachable, modern, and thoughtful, you might want to share funny, lighthearted TikToks on your Instagram stories, or offer creative ideas for elopement during COVID. Terica is a wedding planner in Georgia, and she posted a joke yesterday on Instagram, because she's always posting jokes. She's always got this snarky sense of humor, and it fit within the context of what she was talking about, but it also fit her brand. Now, if you're not always posting jokes and being funny, don't start now, right? But this will help you with your word choices. It will help you with your subject matter and topics, and it will help you choose images and videos if you're always going back to your brand adjectives as touch points. So also ask yourself, how do you want people to feel when they're interacting with your brand? And this is probably one of the most important questions you can ask yourself in a crisis. Do you want them to feel safe? Then flaunt your sanitation habits. Do you want them to feel like they're in good hands with you because you're so competent? Consider weekly live Q&A videos, tackling some of the issues you found in your inbox audit, right? Do you want them to feel deeply cared for? Do social media shout outs of your clients, or set up a DM strategy, checking in with clients and potential clients. Understanding how you want your brand can feel can help you stay relevant in the crisis, but it can also strengthen your brand for others. People become more easily able to recognize who you are and what you stand for. And then let's just, as a reminder, talk about being relevant. What is relevant? Like, you're going to wrap it into your brand. You're going to wrap it into your brand adjectives. You're going to wrap it into your brand proposition. But you want to have info about your cancellation and rescheduling policy blessed by a lawyer. You want information about what couples can do to do business with you during a COVID crisis, when you're not in the office, or they can't view the venue, or they can't have a live band because you yell so loud you spit all over you, whatever it is, right? But just information about what couples can do. Any kind of health and safety information from the CDC or the FDA. The FDA has some really good guidelines out there. There's some other event industry folks that are putting out some guidelines. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm not going to go into it. Find them. Health and safety information from your local health departments. This is really important because different regions and cities are opening up differently, have different regulations, different requirements for gatherings and large gatherings. So make sure you have all those basics, right? So now that you have all of that planned out, I would also like you to take a moment right now, when you have some time, to audit your digital footprint. Make sure that all the links in your header and footers work on your website. Make sure your social media bios are completely filled out and up to date. Make sure that any kind of new and temporary information, such as hours of operation or how to contact the business if nobody's in the office and everybody's working from home, are up to date. Nothing erodes trust faster during a crisis than having outdated information. The end. Like, that's one way to have people never trust, not trust you. Any kind of safer home guide or shelter in place guidelines that are relevant to you, you can post that as well. And then lastly, I just want to say something about your personal brand, okay? I'm going to be really transparent and let you know that this is one of the things that makes me want to tear out my hair. It's a pet peeve. Make sure that you are standing in integrity, not only to what your business is about, but who you are in your business, right? Clients stalk you on social as well. And if you are routinely freaking out about the economy, suggesting that you might go out of business, putting it on your private Facebook and your Instagram stories and all over the place about how worried you are, especially during PPP. I saw this a lot, like, if I don't get PPP, I'm going to go out of business. Well, guess what? You can really tank trust in your business and brand if you're talking like that on your personal channels, even if your business channels are perfect. And now listen, I can hear you. I can hear you thinking, well, I have really good privacy settings. My Instagram isn't public and my Facebook page isn't public and I don't make friends. I don't friend my clients on Facebook. That's fine. But I have $10 that says that you have colleagues and friends and followers on social media, probably sitting in this virtual room. And if you're constantly talking about going out of business, not that all of you are, but I've seen this a lot more than I care to, that those important referrals, if people think that you're not going to be solvent in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, those referrals could go out the window as well. So please, I get it. If you need to freak out with somebody about how scared you are because you only have a 4-month runway or a 4-week runway, do it, but find an inner circle. Do it on a private Facebook chat, do it on a WhatsApp, little mastermind or a Vox mastermind. Don't air it out publicly on your personal social media channels. It just erodes trust. And then also be really careful about other forms of negativity. Like really understand what message you're sending, even on your personal channels, when you're negative, when you talk about politics, when you are the purveyor of doom and gloom, and you're talking about going out of business. So it's just worth noting. I can't tell you what to do on your personal channels, but I can tell you that even if you are locked down in private with your clients, most of us have friends with our local vendor community, and all of this can damage your brand and erode trust, especially during a crisis. So let's quickly, I get a lot of questions. I wanted to quickly talk about what to actually say on social during the COVID crisis. Biggest question I get right now is, we can't meet, should I talk about past events? The short answer is yes. My recommendation is typically to visually follow whatever local guidelines are in place. So if you're a shelter in place, or if you can have 10 or less people meeting, make sure that the visuals reflect that, right? So as we start to open up our restaurants and we are still social distancing, but we can have 10 or fewer people around, start posting wedding party photos and the photos of the couples and things like that. And then also it's really great, and this has to do with listening to your audience, but it's really great to just touch on the audience mood at the time, right? So when we were first going through this, this was posted by Event Crush, and I think this was like week 6 of lockdown, and everybody was getting like itchy and antsy. And she posted and she was like, because we could all use a little sweetness right now. And then she does the soft sell. If you're planning a wedding and feeling uncertain, right, what this virus means for you, your upcoming event, don't hesitate to reach out. So it's a real elegant way to feature your past work, talk about that you understand the context of what's going on, and then do the soft sell and offer help. You can also share useful tips. I love this one as well with the Italian wedding designer, because she is sharing tips for what to do if you had planned an Italian destination wedding. What a nightmare, right? So, and she has a link in the bio, and she's driving traffic back to her website where she can continue to build trust and authority. Share each other's content, right? Like you don't have to make all of the information by yourself. As your vendor group is creating content, feel free to share it, at mention it. You amplify their message. They're going to see the at mention. They're going to give love on you, and you elevate your trust and authority to potential couples. And then take a tip from strong couples, right? Watch your couples and see what they're doing. If you see something really sweet that they're doing, ask if you can share it, right? Like, and celebrate your couples, and talk about their journey, and talk about how strong they are, and talk about how proud you are of them. So those are 4 content types that you can share anytime during a crisis. I will note that each of them in the beginning will frame up the current situation and talk about the current context, right? The ones that are the most tone deaf don't acknowledge that there's a crisis going on. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's talk about recovery. So now is the time to focus on building your audience. And you may or may not be starting to book late 2020. All of your weddings and events might be rolling into 2021. And that's fine. But I also guarantee you, you have a lot of silent potential clients watching and waiting for clarity about when they can gather, and they're waiting to book. So what you want to do is you want to start building and capturing audiences and potential clients now, so that when it's clear that your state or even the nation is finally open for business and events are green lighted, that all of those silent people who are watching and waiting and need your services, that they see you first as you step forward and say, hey, remember me? I can help you right now, right? So in the next few slides, I'm going to give you some tips for actually building audience without being tone deaf. So whether you're in the middle of a crisis or not, creating cornerstone content that can drive traffic to your website is always a good idea. Cornerstone content is content that you can include, that it's evergreen, people are going to want to read. You can drive traffic anytime. It can include your FAQs, especially if you've updated them during the COVID crisis. It can include a power article or a blog post covering tips and tricks based on your listening exercise. It can be a COVID-related page with up-to-date information about local conditions and guidelines and how they relate to your business. PS, if you update this regularly, put updated in the date that you updated it at the top, so that the content, it's clear that the content is fresh and it's evergreen, and you can get a little bit of Google juice off of that as well. But the whole goal is to drive traffic to your website, okay? And here's why. You are going to install the Facebook pixel on your website if you've not already done so. And what you can do is you can actually track website visitors who back out on social media. So if they visit your website, you can track them, and that little pixel, that little cookie, stays active for a year if they don't clear their browsers, which nobody really does. And so what happens is, if you pixel them now, if you pixel them today, 8 months down the road, you can start advertising to them as soon as we open, or whenever we open, with some of those like book now messages, and you know that they've already visited your website, they're familiar with your brand, they've shown interest in your services at some point, right? They're on the photography page. Now you can start advertising them when we recover, and you know exactly who they are, right? This is really important because not everybody's ready to book right now, but they are thinking about planning an event. So you want to be able to track those people who are feeling a little bit shy and waiting to inquire, so that when they're ready to book, you're right there. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about this is, when you install your Facebook pixel and you start advertising to warmer audiences instead of just geo-targeting everybody, cold audiences, your ads tend to be a lot more effective and cheaper. So I usually get ad costs down by pixeling people first. So once you have the pixel installed, again, you're going to drive traffic to your site. That could be your cornerstone content, which is really easy. It could be blog posts. It could be anything, but you want to consistently try to drive people from social media to your website as much as possible. Now, look, I've been doing this for a long time in the event industry. I know that it's harder than ever to drive traffic from social to websites. It is. It's not like 2012, where that's the social media was like the highway to your website. But look, the point is there are still plenty of people who will visit your website from social media. So drive traffic. Then, now we're really getting into evil marketer territory. Then you want to set up custom audiences, and you can get so creative with custom audiences. You can create custom audiences based on your web traffic. You can exclude people who hit a thank you page when they inquired, right? So you're not advertising to people you've already booked or you've already talked to. You can even set up lookalike audiences on Facebook and Instagram that tell Facebook and Instagram, go find other people that are similar to the people who have visited my website and advertise to them, right? So you start to get really targeted. The more targeted you get, the more effective your ads often are, and the cheaper they often are. And then once you have your custom audiences built, you can start delivering specific ads and messaging to them based on their interaction or the depth of their online relationship with you. So for example, you might want to advertise your cornerstone content to drive cheap traffic to your website. Then you form lookalike audiences so you can drive traffic to your website and get them pixeled. Once people have visited your website, you might retarget to them testimonial ads, right? You're deepening the relationship with your audiences. That is the most effective marketing you can do. And you can get super creative with this type of targeting the right people with the right message at the right time, but only if you have that pixel installed. So then you can go crazy, which is beyond the scope of this particular webinar, but you can go crazy and build an evergreen funnel that says, if somebody sees my ad, drive traffic to my website. If they don't go to my website, show them another ad for another blog post. If they don't go again, show them a different ad for a different blog post. If they see an ad and they go to my website, show them a testimonial ad. And you can create this evergreen funnel that works for you online to drive traffic to your website and pre-sell people while you do other important things in your life. Okay, so let's talk about once we start to recover, once we start to really see signs, which we are now, as we start to open our restaurants, as we start to consider opening smaller events, let's talk about what we need to be doing right now. You don't have to go out on social media with a hard sell, but you have to keep selling, okay? You don't have to do a big public sales campaign to cold audiences in order to sell. In fact, you can do the soft selling that I talked about with that social media post where she just said, hey, if you need some help, I'm here. And you can do this whether you're in the middle of a crisis or not, which makes you not a blowhard, which makes you not somebody that people are turned off about. So couple things is make sure that you've audited your services and your inquiry pages, right? If you have any changes, one place to do a soft sell is right on your website, but make sure that those pages are up to date, okay? You can also retarget the web visitors with a soft sell, right? You know that they've gone to your website. They're likely planning an event if they have. So, you know, maybe you just have some ads out there saying, I'm here looking for a photographer. I'm here to help. Retarget web visitors with additional information if they visited your FAQ page, right? Be a go-giver and then say, if you need additional information, I'm here to help, and send them to your inquiry page, have them contact you. If you're in email marketing, stay in touch with them via email marketing. You can even make offers. A local wedding planner here in Mammoth Lakes was in a little bit of a cash crunch when this first happened. Everybody was canceling. They weren't rescheduling, they were canceling. And she emailed her list with a bond offer where they could buy consulting hours, and it helped her bridge the gap. So keep selling, have it be soft, sell to warmed up audiences. Look for signs of recovery weekly. Look at your state orders, look at your governor, what your governor is saying. Look at your analytics. I've seen so much that has given me insights just by looking at client analytics. Traffic's starting to go up. Well, if traffic's starting to go up, let's get the right messaging out there. Let's start selling on the website. Let's get strong calls to action, because we're seeing that uptick in traffic on key pages like the galleries page, the inquiry page, the contact page. Reach out to your network. People will remember how you made them feel. So don't forget your network. Reach out to your network. Say, hey, things are crazy right now. How can I help? Planners, their hair is on fire. Reach out to some key planners and say, how can I help? I've done this during COVID. I'm like, hey, if you need me to schedule some social media posts for you, like, I can do that. That's something I do for a living. If you just need a break for a week from social media, I can monitor your channels. Like, whatever, it could be the littlest thing. I can triage your inbox, but just reach out for help. You can also do polls and questions on Facebook and Instagram stories asking how everybody's doing. You can do this for your clients. You can do this for your vendor network. And the cool thing about asking questions and doing polls is you start to get top questions and concerns. Any marketer knows that the more information you can get about your audience, the more you can serve them. The more you can serve your audience, the better you can market to them. So, key takeaways. Number one, stop and listen to your audience first. That is going to guide everything you do from this day forward, from how you message and market your services to how you engage with online audiences to what kind of content you create. So the first step is to stop and listen. Second step is to make sure that the things that you're putting out there are on brand. A crisis is not the time to like let go of everything that you hold dear with your brand. It's not the time to let go of your brand voice or your brand adjectives. It's time to re-engage with them and use them to showcase what your brand is really all about. And then build your audience early. Start now, put the pixel on your website, create some cornerstone content, start driving traffic, and build that audience so that when we hit recovery, you can show up to all those people that visited your website with the right message at the right time, letting them know that you're open for business. So I've left some time for questions because I tend to get a lot with this because I talk a lot. I did create a little checklist, and I've taken this particular webinar, which is recorded, and I've condensed it down to a nice tight 12 minutes. So if you'd like that, you can text recovery to 55444 and you'll get that automatically.
So I'm actually going to put that in the chat. It's, what did you say was the number again? 55?
It's text recovery to 55444. So 2 5s and 3 4s.
Perfect. All right. So I just added that into the chat so that way people can hopefully get out there and ask for additional help. I just wanted to, because I can't see all of the comments, I wanted to see, Kathy, can you see if anybody's asked a question as of yet?
The only one that I see is somebody asked about templates.
What kind of template?
Oh, yeah, so that's a question. I'm assuming templates for advertising and in order to you know, for ads. I don't know who asked.
Let me see if I can see that.
And I'm gonna join you on screen so it doesn't feel like you're such, you know, by yourself.
Floating out here.
It was just a lot. I was like, all of us.
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Megan,
And I'm Northeast,
Megan
so I
asked.
talk fast, super fast.
Well, you did a really
Megan,
good
the
job. You
artist
covered-
asked that. Megan,
Oh,
can
Megan.
you, if you're still on, can you, hold on.
We'll find out. So you covered a lot of subjects in a very short period of time. I mean, it was a lot of information. We will be posting a link to this webinar, so that way if you missed anything or you wanted to like just go back and listen again to see if you got all the information needed, we will have that opportunity for you guys. So please don't worry. You're not going to lose out on anything. Also, you know, the fact that she's did this in a condensed version for you guys by going to text recovery to number, oh, and I messed that up. It should be 55444.
55444.
Of course I messed that up. So you'll text the word recovery and make sure I spell that right to 55444.
Yeah, all right, I got the question now. When it comes to
Perfect.
posting specifically about COVID-19, can you suggest a few resources we should be looking to for guidance?
The CDC.
And NACE has a full page on it, and with
NACE,
lots of stuff.
just a shout out to NACE. NACE also curates from authority sources. They curate from authority industry sources. So yeah, they're a good clearinghouse. In fact, I have a client in the catering industry that I have a COVID resources page up for it. And I routinely look and see what NACE is doing to stay abreast, because I can't always like look at all the sources. So I do go to NACE as well. Yeah. And then in terms of templates, it's a really good question, and it's a really important question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. A lot of social media channel managers, especially when we are dispensing information that keeps people safe. I know you're like, but I'm not being creative and stuff like that. But having some boilerplate in a Google Doc with your FAQs, such as, you know, when will you open? We don't know. And so having a template, a little piece of text that you can copy and paste that says whatever, it says we're not quite sure, here are the resources we're following. Sign up to our interest list. We release all of our information there first. I've done that a lot. I'm like, sign up to our list. That's we email once a day or whatever it is. But being able to copy and paste that over and over again helps you stay consistent. And emergency channel managers know that consistency keeps people safe. When you start noodling around and changing your mind and you need to wear a mask, you don't need to wear a mask, and all that kind of stuff, that's when you erode trust in your brand and people become unsafe. So templates and consistency keep people safe.
Perfect.
Awesome. And somebody did say, where's the link to the webinar? And I put it in chat. So if you go to
Perfect.
chat, you can click right on it. And I
so
think that is it.
So I just want to say out to all of our NACE people, we know that it is a really tough time. Actually, we were talking offline before we came online just about the amount of stress that is going on, because weddings are such a personal thing. It's something that people have been dreaming of their entire life. And now you're having to deal with not just the personalities on the wedding side, but now the personalities on the vendor side. And I think more than ever, it is super important to get your messaging correct and be absolutely straightforward and honest with all of your answers, because any confusion at this point could be taken in a lot of different ways. So be really careful about the messaging that you're sending out there and that it's based on fact. Would you
And
agree,
if I
Chris?
could, yeah, if I could build on that as well, going back to the templates and the FAQs, early on in a crisis, I often talk about building out an internal FAQ page. And I've had the unenviable job of actually managing through crises. Even small like PR brand stuff, some of my clients have had some issues with people, backlashing and stuff like that. It's really important when you build your initial internal FAQ doc, any policy you have, any contract policy you have, any rescheduling or canceling policy you have, put it in your FAQ doc and then send it to a lawyer. Make sure that whatever you're putting out there complies with local and state laws. And this is where you don't want to go into a Facebook group or the NACE group and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Because the laws, not just in California, but in my local county, are going to differ from your local laws. So you get that FAQ, that internal FAQ with all your policies and your contracts and this and that. You have a lawyer bless it. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take maybe a week or 2 weeks for them to get back to you, but it will keep you very, very safe. So thank you for bringing that up, Keith.
Yeah, and it's actually, during this time when we're talking about moving events, and your cancellation policy needs to be absolutely spelled out, very specific about, the terms. And I think all of us have learned a little something during this time about our cancellation policy,
right?
Making sure it's rock solid in our contract. And that does take a lawyer. So it's super important that you always go to somebody that specializes, especially a lawyer, because the laws do differ from literally county to county, city to city.
And two more points about that, just about dealing with.
No, you're good.
Don't change the verbiage if your lawyer changes it. Like whatever words your lawyer says, use them. But you can soften that lawyer speak as a channel manager by saying things like, great question. Thank you so much for being interested in our services. The answer is lawyer speak. Please let me know if you'd like to schedule an appointment. I'd be happy to help you with your event, right? So you don't have to nobody likes it when a brand comes out with lawyer bullet point. So you can put a little kindness sandwich in between all of that lawyer gobbledygook, but don't change a word that your lawyer blesses.
And that's actually true. Not a single word, because sometimes an a, an and, a by will literally change that, and you change all the protections you may have had in that verbiage. And you said there was a second point, or was that the second point?
Don't change, but sandwich it with kindness.
There you go.
Yeah. But have them have them look at that as well, because little things like, we're so sorry you're in it, that might make you liable. So, take your lawyer speak, sandwich it with kindness, have them take another look at it and go out with that.
Because you just need to protect yourself. You need to protect your business, because again, we're going through unprecedented times, and it's for webinars like this and for information like from Christie that I can't thank you enough, because it was an awesome hour. You just did an amazing job, and I learned a lot. And I love the
Thank
fact that we're
you.
going to continue this series for another 3 days. And tomorrow we have Kinsey Roberts, and she will be talking about how to continue marketing your business even if you have a limited budget. So I think that's actually more important now than ever, because all of us have limited budgets, even more so than ever. So if you're looking to market your business, I mean, we've talked about recovery. Now we're going to be talking about marketing your business on a limited budget. So join us tomorrow at 3:30. I'm just going to say thank you again to NACE, the National Association of Catering and Events, our national chapter. Thank you for sharing this with everybody. Also, thank you to my Greater Broward and Palm Beach peeps for helping us get this rolling. Thank you, Megan Ely, by the way, because without Megan's original, we would have not had any of this available. So Megan, thank you so much for doing this. And then also I just want to say thank you to our Southeast chapters, meaning Richmond, Appalachian, Charlotte, Triangle, Greater Atlanta, Nashville, Northeast Florida, Orlando, Greater Miami, and the beaches, Tampa Bay, and of course, Greater Broward and Palm Beach for pushing this out there and making sure we get as much information to as many people as possible. Remember, this is free. This is great information. Getting to be able to talk to people like Christie in this time is a huge gift. And Christie, I thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, have a great day, and off to your next webinar you've got, but join back in tomorrow at 3:30. Thank you.